morning, welcome to Pink Salt Shed TV. I'm Kate Salter, and a little bit of housekeeping. Please press the subscribe button on the bottom right hand corner of your screen. Perfecto, perfecto, thank you. Right, so we are production 2 of our Health and Wellbeing Week. We spoke on Monday about all things mind and body connectivity. So it's very much a case of the head doesn't rule the heart doesn't rule the head. It's all about how they both work together, so we are balanced and are functioning at our optimum capacity, I suppose. I mean, I think I'm not necessarily a spiritual person, but I do kind of think that there's a lot more we can do to make sure we don't run on empty and that we keep our tanks full. And I think that's very much a case of recognizing how our body works as a whole thing, all of the balancing kind of things we can do for it. Anyway, so have you done anything this week that has been a little bit more focused on you? I don't know, taken a nice bath, candles, essential oils, gone for an extra long walk, or just read a book instead of being on your social media? Obviously not this social media. You know, turned your phone off, gone to bed earlier, switched your TV off, that kind of thing. Although I suppose what I'm talking more about, you know, the me time that is more about relaxing. Many people don't actually do relaxing stuff for me time, and how they sort of get their equilibrium back. But yeah, so I suppose that for me, relaxing is the go-to to kind of give myself that little bit of self-help. In fact, when I used to be a massage therapist, I digress slightly. But when I was a massage therapist, you would see one of your clients, you got them into the treatment room, and you would always ask, how are you feeling? It was never, how's your day? It was always how are you feeling? And that was a good gauge on whether they were tense, stressed, happy to be there, you know, whether it's the worst thing that could happen for them right now. But you always kind of gauged how they were going to feel at the end of the treatment. And part of it was asking, well, how do you want to feel at the end of your treatment? And people would say, oh, really relaxed, you know, very busy, really relaxed. I want to feel relaxed. Thank you. Yes, please. And you go, okay, well, smell these oils. So you would have 3 oils. There was a chamomile and something, I can't remember what it was. That was our relaxing oil. There was a geranium and lavender oil, which was very much sort of balancing, great for women, great for hormones and that kind of thing. And you would have a rosemary, cedar and lemon oil. That was always my favourite. It had a muskiness to it, which was just delightful. And when people chose the rosemary, cedar and lemon oil, you could see that they were a bit, I didn't want to choose that oil. I wanted the relaxing oil, because the rosemary, cedar and lemon oil was very invigorating. It kind of got the senses, you could feel the vibration of the senses getting that little bit more active. And they were thinking, that is just not what I'm here for. I want to be relaxed. So you would clarify that, well, the process of the massage is very relaxing. Super, super relaxing. In fact, you might even fall asleep. Oh, sounds great. And then you would say, but what your body is telling you, you know, are you a busy person? Oh, yes, I'm very busy. Oh, yes, I have a list up to here of things I have to do. Very busy. In fact, I don't even know how I made the time to be here. So, you know. But what their body was telling them with the oil that they were smelling, that the oil that their body clearly wanted on them, was that the process of the massage will relax you. But then the moment you walk out the door, you need to be able to function again, to get on with all of the things that your life demands, whether it's children, whether it's work, family, friends, all of the list of things that you've got to do. You can't go out in that relaxed state because you're probably not going to give it your all. But if you're a bit more invigorated, then you'll hopefully, with the relaxation, you will then be able to function properly and get the best out of yourself. Anyway, that's how I looked at it. And true enough, it did work. People were like, oh, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, I can see how that can happen. So yeah, so that works well. But today, we talk with Claire again today. Very happy to have Claire back, because Claire does her wellness classes. She does workshops. She's got her naturopathic therapies, well, her food therapy. And I want to ask Claire what it is that she does for herself and how she then translates that into classes and in the well-being that she offers her clients. I think that's really important. And what I think we'll gather today is what we can all do for ourselves and how Claire can help us just get that little bit of balance back again. It's all about balance. We can be as busy as you like as long as we relax. Or if we're as relaxed as you like, well, then being a bit more busy, being a bit busier and having that sort of vigor to get on and do things is really, really helpful to us as well. So let's see Claire. Let's bring in Claire. Good morning.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm all right.
Yeah,
I'm just going to send
that way.
myself a little There we go. I'm off to one side, aren't I? There we go.
You're perfect now. You're perfect. Thanks for joining us again, Claire. You've obviously heard my little intro there about how we were, chatted on Monday about the mind and body connectivity, and how, the self is really, really important to make sure that we are looking after ourselves to be the best for others around us, because that's also really important, making sure that we're looking after other people's health and well-being as well. So today, talking to you about what you do for you would be a great idea to kind of know where all of your classes and ideas for your well-beings and workshops sort of come into it. Can you expand a bit on what you've done for yourself over the last few years to get to that state of knowing how you get your balance?
Sure. Yeah, and thank you for having me back. It's a privilege to get, two shows in 1 week. That's fantastic. So yeah, so I mean, I think these words like balance and mind and body are very, like, they're everywhere at the moment, aren't they? Yeah. We talk a lot about it, and I think for me, like, what I came to realize was that actually I needed to switch off. You talked about how some people need to sort of bring more vigor into their lives, and that's perfectly true. I completely agree with you. It's not always like about relaxing, actually. It might actually be about energizing. Yes. And that's where we get back to this idea of like, what do you as an individual actually need? Now my route into that for myself, because I've always been very sort of intellectually and rationally led in my life, and I think that's the society we live in as well, particularly in the neck of the woods. It's like, it's very much about, your intellectual capabilities, your performing well at school, getting a decent degree, having a good career. This is all very much about the rational brain and the rational mind. It's very empirical. It's very much a product, actually, of, without getting too philosophical about it, Western philosophy and the Enlightenment kind of thinking that shaped our society as it is today. And so we don't realize how much we are in that particular mode. And for me, it's been very much about thinking about, okay, well, that's great, but it is actually only one aspect of myself. How do I feel? Absolutely. And for a very long time, if you had asked me, I would not have been able to name my feelings. Like, I would not have known specifically what it was that I was feeling beyond maybe happy and angry. So I've had to do quite a lot of work on exploring that. And that can be often quite uncomfortable if you're not used to having your feelings, or you're used to being in a situation where, as we are quite often, like, told that it's really better to set your feelings aside and ignore them a little bit. So things like the stuff that I do, like yoga and meditation, and all of the work that I've done in terms of holistic health and well-being, bringing in that emotional side of myself to it and that aspect to it, have been centered around getting connected with that. And yoga classes provide the perfect space, the perfect, safe, nice, self-contained space in order to do that kind of self-inquiry and exploration, and you get to switch your mind off a little bit. That's certainly been my experience. It's like when I'm in a yoga class, if I'm teaching, it's a bit different, but if I'm just there for myself, I don't have to think about anything except the connection between my breath and my body and how I'm feeling, and I really just get into that. And I, for me, that's, this expression of being in the flow of it. It's just like, or it highlights to me how I'm actually feeling. If I haven't had time to stop in my life in a busy day and check in with myself, and I'm disconnected from how I'm actually feeling about things, that can create lots of problems for me in how I then react and respond to what's going on in my life. So, all of these kind of things, even you were talking about massage, and I absolutely love massages. I lived in an Asian country. I've lived in Asian countries a lot where massage is part of the medicine system.
Yes.
It's not a luxury. It's not a treat for your body. It's medicinal in its nature and its purpose. And I was rather spoiled because I used to be able to go like as part of a self-maintenance program, if you like mental health as well as physical health, every week, twice a week sometimes. And it really, it's a clearing of energy through the body. It releases the tension, and like trauma research and trauma therapy taps into this idea that we hold emotions in our bodies, like they get stuck.
Absolutely.
And so for me, the practice of anything is about processing and clearing that through, so that we can maintain health and balance and feel good.
I think that's exactly that. I mean, in this country, we go and have a massage. Well, it's one of those, you can gift it to someone. It's a treat. It's a special day. It costs a fortune. And actually, I think it's, not dissing any sort of that world. I was in that world, but it's a bit like daylight robbery, because actually you're getting someone to pay an exorbitant amount of money for something that really should be part of our setup. I mean, I think in this country, or the Western world, many people don't like that touch because we're not as tactile as Eastern countries. And it goes back to what we said last week about how, for thousands of years, the Eastern countries have been on top of the mind-body game, and we are only just, maybe we're into a bit more than that, but catching up with them. And it's still, when you see news reports on TV about things that are, devastating other countries, and you see how people show their emotion, and then you look at how us Westerners just hold on to the emotion because we don't like to show it in front of people. I mean, it doesn't mean that, we need to be in the depths of despair in front of people to, show them our feelings, but we just keep hold of everything, and our bodies absolutely hold all of that. We manifest it. And I think that's where it translates into, the physical pains that we have. And in massage, I absolutely can notice how people are holding themselves, because many times in the process you're asking them to relax, and then they tense up again. Then, I mean, it's not physically, but you can feel it, and then they realize, oh yeah, even in the lower arm you can feel if they're not totally relaxed. It's really interesting. I'd like to explore it more. In fact, it would be quite interesting to give you a massage and you compare me to what it was like when you had massages. Oh God! And when I have a massage, so I'm rambling now, but when I have a massage, it's not the most pleasant. It's not the most pleasant of experiences, because I'm judging what they're doing and if I would do it that way. So for me, it's a bit of an empty thing, unfortunately. Anyhow, carry on.
Yeah, that's the shame of it, isn't it? It's like, once you know how these things are supposed to go, I suppose that you sort of fix on that a little bit, don't you? I can be the same if I go to somebody else's yoga class, although I have trained myself to again go with it, and really, because everybody brings something different to what it is that they're teaching or sharing with you.
It's like you can learn. You can learn.
Yeah. And they might know something that I don't. I mean, go figure,
There is that possibility, Mrs. Academic, but yeah, there is that possibility.
There are plenty of people out there who know lots about things I know nothing about. So thank goodness for that. There's always learning to be done.
Yes. So when you talk to us a bit more about your classes. So as far as CG yoga and wellness goes, what do you offer, and kind of why do you offer it? I suppose that's because you're in tune with people coming to you for a reason. How do you kind of get to the crux of what it is they need, and how do you offer that to them?
So obviously group classes are slightly different to teaching one-on-one or doing one-on-one consultations. So I mostly do just as everybody does, group classes. And you might think, oh, well, what's the, you know, if we're also individual and have individual needs, then what's the, why do you have group classes at all? Right? Like, what's the point of that? Wow. But the fact is, there's that aspect to it where, you know, doing any yoga is going to be beneficial to you. And group settings are a way of building community and connection with people, which is very important, especially at the moment. But, you know, everybody within that class will come out of the class at the end of it having had a slightly different experience and having perhaps adapted it for their own bodies, their own practice, particularly people who've been coming for a while and know what limits they have. You know, it's a bit of a myth that everybody can do everything, or indeed that we all should be doing everything in a yoga class. You know, some bodies just aren't made that way to.
I remember you said before, I mean, some people practice and practice and practice, and they get that headstand to a T. Amazing. But if you haven't got what that, you know, if your body is in a different kind of way, it's just never going to achieve it.
Right.
Or would it?
And you shouldn't beat yourself up about that either. There's a lot of that because we're so sort of goal and achievement driven. I think part of the yoga practice itself is letting go of ego around that ego, that wanting things to be the way that we want them to be. And one of the challenges with yoga is to accept sometimes you've got to crawl before you can walk. You've got to walk before you can run, and sometimes you're not going to run.
Well, and sometimes you look at the next person and you think, how can you do that? And you look at yourself, it's just not working for me.
And but then that's again, it's like absolutely. And then you, like, through this process of a yoga class, you learn all these things. It's like, oh, I compare myself to other people.
Yes,
that's how I measure myself. Why do I do that? Why am I measuring myself by others? Which is fine, but does that actually help me or make me happy? Shouldn't I be measuring myself by myself, like my own progress in things, and all of these ideas that we have about how life ought to be and go come up on the mat, and we can then take that out of the class into our lives. Hopefully that's the idea, and start to make changes where we need to make changes in our lives, as well as, you know, getting physically more healthy through the yoga practice.
It's true.
So it works on many levels.
So I mean, a lot, you know, so you do the classes, people go into the class, they can be in a different mindset. You know, when they walk through the door, we're all got our things going on. So we can either be as occupied with those things, or we can try and focus on the yoga, focus on the breathing, because that's, of course, a huge part of it. And then it's like, it can be a very meditative practice, even though, you know, well, it's like a guided meditation, isn't it? Because there's you talking to the class, or even in a one-to-one session talking, and you're listening, doing, and you're kind of putting other things at bay, doing your breathing, and it's the flow, isn't it? So actually, which yoga is the flow yoga? There's different types. I don't recall them all.
So there's, I mean, yes. So what you said, I agree with completely. It's like you come to a class, you turn up, however you're feeling that day, you bring it to the class, and if you forget about it. If you want to sort of we call it setting an intention, sankalpa, at the beginning of a class, like, my practice today, what's my focus? And sometimes it's a break from whatever, and you just come to your breath, and you do your practice. And sometimes it's I really need to investigate what's really bugging me. Why am I in such a crappy mood? If it's obvious to me. And I would say, the breath is really what distinguishes yoga from other forms of like activity. So people quite often ask me, what's the difference between yoga and Pilates? Pilates is simply physical exercise, as I understand it. I mean, I'm not a Pilates teacher, but I have looked into it. It's about strengthening your body and being healthy in your body. Yoga is slightly different to that. It can just be about strengthening your body if that's what you want it to be. But with the breathing, if you incorporate your yogic breathing into it, it has particular techniques that is what makes it yoga, the breath connection. As my yoga teacher says, you know, without the breathing, it's just gymnastics. That's what you're doing. Yeah. So so there's that element to it. And then you know, I teach a variety of styles of yoga. There are different styles of yoga, obviously. They're all, I mean, the flow, as far as I'm concerned, is the flow of life. That's not the yoga style that we're doing. So you're in the flow of life, whether you like it or not. And sometimes you hit resistance with that, and it's not, you're not feeling the flow. And sometimes you are in the flow and you're all, you know, everything's happy and everything's good, right? And it's all good overall. Like, you know, that's just the reality of it. You're gonna have times when you're not feeling it, and you're gonna have times when you are. But the yoga helps you to tap into where you're at with that. It gives you, by some alchemy that's sometimes a little bit mysterious, it helps with that, you know. And it's to do with the breathing, and my view is it's to do with like on a biochemical level, partly to changing the biochemistry that's going on in your body through getting out of your sympathetic nervous system, which is the stress response, into your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest response, which these days we tend not to get enough of. And that is where the healing happens in our body. That's the mode we need to be in, as it suggests, to rest and digest. And that's resting and digesting mentally as well as physically. So it's really important. So any kind of yoga that you do, I teach yin yoga as well as hatha yoga, flow yoga. So, you know, so I do both, and it depends. Like, you might be feeling really energetic, do a flow yoga class, fast flow, hatha yoga, a bit more energetic, bit more physically taxing. That might be what you need. But you might just be feeling like you really want a deep stretch and release, and to meditate a little bit and be calm, completely calm with your breath. And yin yoga is perfect for that. And it also, it balances out the more sort of active physical activity that we do, because we're not using our muscles in yin yoga. We just relax into the postures. So it stretches into the connective tissues, into the ligaments and the joints of the body.
Like a repair and restore.
Yeah, and they need looking after too. And we think about our muscles a lot when we think about yoga and movement and activity, but actually there are other bits of our anatomy that need looking after as well, just as much, in order for us to be healthy and to be mobile, and for everything to work and move properly.
Well, you know, and the thing is, I mean, you know, to breathe into our bodies and let go with our muscles, almost tensing, realizing that you're tensing and then relaxing, is a really good exercise, because who relaxes their muscles totally? I mean, I try and do it when I go to bed to get to sleep quicker, just totally relax. And then you can feel yourself, but then you need to relax again. It's a conscious decision to actually relax your body, but your body needs this. And then your mind needs this as well. So that's how the body and the mind work together. And talk more about the sort of the digestive system side of things, because that links in to your education at the moment, your naturopathic ways of, you know, we consume our foods and things like that. What can that do for us?
Yeah, so it's all connected. I mean, for me, you asked what do I do, like if I'm talking to somebody sort of one-on-one, obviously in a group class, you don't have the scope to address individual issues to the same level. So what I would always say to people in a group setting is, do what your body does, like go to your limits and stick with that. Don't worry about what the person next to you is doing. You know, you don't know their body, you don't know their background, you don't know anything about that. So you cannot compare apples and oranges, right? But in a one-on-one situation, I would do much more talking about the emotional. Remember, I talked about the 3 main aspects of being that I focus on for holistic health: food, sleep,
yeah,
and emotions,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Your emotional balance, relationships with yourself and others. And so if I was working with someone individually, which I do, I would talk to them first of all about those three things and be like, well, what is it that you find comes up for you in these areas? What is it that you need that you're perhaps not getting at the moment, or what's something that you've noticed about these things? And there's always something we know. Usually we just often don't have the time and space to really bring it to consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So sitting down can be very helpful for that, or even you can do it yourself on a bit of paper, you know, with the sort of all health coaches. I'm a trained health coach as well, and all health coaches are taught one of the first things is the wheel, you know, with the different parts of your life, and give on a score, right? You can find it on the internet and see what is it in your life that's really flagging itself to you as needing some attention, you know. And then I would work with putting together a yoga practice that maybe would incorporate a focus on diet as well. And at the moment with the nutritional therapy, the naturopathic nutritional therapy, I'm in my final year, so I don't actually see people myself, but we have clinics at my college where we're supervised by fully qualified practitioners. And it's a bargain, actually. You get a really good deal. If anyone's interested, they're more than welcome to approach me about that.
Well, I'll write it on the comments after we've done this. I'll write it on the comments if you like. That sounds a great idea.
And then in that setting, we would take a full case history, like going all the way back to childhood, an emotional case history, as well as a medical and physical case history, you know, key events in life, all that kind of thing, as well as what's going on at the moment, like diet wise. We do a 3-day food diary, but also like what symptoms we focus on, what are the two key things that are really flagging themselves or causing problems for somebody in their life, and we work with that, looking at the overall picture, the whole picture. And you know, in that practice, in that setting, I might actually say to somebody, have you tried yoga and meditation? Is it something that you would be open to trying? Not necessarily with me, but just like in general, you know, because it can be incredibly helpful. A lot of the time we get stuck on the physical side of things, like what's going on physically. And if I can just think hard enough or change something, then that will all go away and be okay. But in fact, a lot of the time, it's more about connecting with the feelings around it and clearing things through, and not so much getting stuck in the physical aspects of it, but really addressing the emotional aspects of it. You know, saying like the mind and the like at the beginning, the mind and the heart, yes, they are connected, absolutely. But quite often our mind is a barrier. It blocks us as well, because there are some things it's just easier not to, you know, think about or look at or address.
Actually, we can like block it off. I'm holding my hand up here. We block it off, you know, we're just like saying no to the emotions, no to anything that's going to upset what we think is the balance, knowing full well that that's what we know, what we're blocking out is upsetting the balance. Because if we just welcome all in, digest it, deal with it and let it go, we can take in more, we can take on more, and we can, you know, if we process it, we can let it go. If it's hanging there and not processed, then it's just going to hang there, and it will alter how we digest our foods, the stresses and things like that, how we digest our food and the nutritional content of our food and everything. It's all completely and utterly linked. It's fascinating, but it's massive.
It is, and it's really hard to like distill it, actually. I don't know if it's justice or not, but so but like working on an individual level with someone, it starts from there. And also looking at an individual's constitution is really key as well. And with that, for me, that brings in kind of like either Ayurveda or traditional Chinese medicine approaches. Like we can borrow those a little bit and find out, because in a yoga practice that really helps you to understand what might be more suitable for somebody individually, and to something, do a bespoke practice for them. And for my yoga clients who I see on a one-on-one basis, that's what I do. I create practices which are adapted specifically to them. So a routine for them specifically.
So you work with, so the traditional Chinese medicines, Ayurveda, the science of life, which is the sleep, the nutritional aspect, and the feelings and emotions, relationship side. What's a little bit more sort of what are the traditions of Chinese medicines? What are the medicines, or is it the process, the medicine?
It's a system. Yeah, it's not just about the medicines as in like medicine. Pills. Yes. Think of medicine. Yeah, so everything is medicine. Really can be medicine. Food is medicine. Yeah. Like your emotions can be medicine for your soul, right? And meditation can be a kind of medicine. A medicine is anything which heals.
Yes.
Helps the body to heal. In fact, the body is quite capable most of the time of healing itself, given the right context.
Yes.
And we can help and support it to do that in very many ways. But traditional Chinese medicine, so if you've ever had acupuncture, then you will know about the meridian system.
Yep.
And we have meridians in our bodies according to traditional Chinese medicine, over 1,000, it's 5,000 years old. So, it's not like they haven't had chance to observe these things in practice.
Thought it up.
Yeah, they haven't made it up yesterday. And so, and these meridians are running all through our bodies. There's actually 12, sometimes they say 14 main meridians.
Okay.
And along these meridians, we have pressure points or acupoints, which if you've had acupuncture, that's where they put the needle. And we have different patterns of disease in our body, according to Chinese medicine. And, without getting into it too much, you can be like more yin or more yang, deficiencies or excesses.
Yes.
And it's related to a particular organ system, like perhaps your liver. But your liver is not just your liver as in we think of the physical organ. The liver is a system within your body that the liver governs that, and there's emotions associated with it as well. So say perhaps you are finding that you're angry all the time, you have an excess of liver heat, if that is the emotion that's coming up for you, likely to. And then they might talk to you about what other symptoms you're experiencing. And so liver for women in particularly is to do with hormones and balancing our hormones, and it governs our menstrual cycles. So it's a whole different way of looking at the body,
isn't it?
And it's fascinating, and it's also pretty bloody effective as well. Actually, a Chinese doctor then might make a recommendation of acupuncture or herbs or dietary adjustments. Food is huge in Chinese medicine, just as it is in Ayurveda. Your diet, like if you're not eating right for your constitution and for your conditions, then nothing is really going to fix it, because we're talking about root causes here. We're not talking about just treating the symptoms. We're looking at where is this actually coming from? Eliminating
the problem. The cause rather. Yeah.
So, and that's the same with actually naturopathic nutrition in the Western school of thinking as well. We look at root causes rather than just symptoms.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I always think that you go to a doctor and they always treat the symptoms, and
it's great. You get relief from them, but then they come back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It comes back, doesn't it? So you do. So we've talked a little bit about the yoga classes that you do, the different varieties of yoga class, and your naturopathic therapies as well, which is the two work so well together. It's perfect for an overall sort of sense of how to treat someone's well-being. What do you do in the way of other complementary things? So I know you do workshops. So I'm asking you, what do you do? I know that you do workshops. One workshop in particular you did last Saturday, which was about chakras. Now, I find I know a little bit, and I find them fascinating, because there is very much a balance we can get by concentrating on the 7 points in our body, to balance these. They're sort of wheels. Is that right? Can you just explain a little bit more about chakras?
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's a lot of sort of mystery around them, and and that's kind of why I wanted to do the workshop as well for my students, because quite a few people had been like, "Can you tell us more about the chakras? We're really interested, but we just don't know what they are, and it's a bit of a mystery." And it's you know, they are energy centers in the body, so they're not physical things. They're more subtle than that. So in yoga anatomy, you need to sort of know a little bit about yoga anatomy for it to make sense. So I'll just quickly explain. In yoga anatomy, we think of having our bodies as having 5 layers or koshas, and the innermost layer is the most physical one, and then as you fan out, they get more and more subtle or less physical, more energetic. And the chakras are part of our energetic body. I think it's pranamaya kosha, and the I forget the Sanskrit name sometimes, to be honest, but you know, that's just age and memory. They are connected to the physical body because everything influences everything else, right? So we have 7 main chakras. In fact, there are far more than that in the body.
Yes.
And where they are is at the nexus of energy channels, a bit like the meridians in Chinese medicine, only in Ayurveda they call them nadis or channels. It just means channel. And these energy centers sit where there's a lot of crossover between these channels in the body, and they're powerful centers for balancing our body systems. Again, each is sort of connected to an emotion, an element, to an organ or organs within the body, within the physical. But they're also they do have much more kind of metaphysical meanings. And if you look at the symbols that are within the chakra symbol, each one has like a mandala. If you look at those, they're highly symbolic, and you know, in Vedic, sort of, if you're familiar with Vedic symbology, then it has many deeper levels, and you could go like very deep with chakra work. The way that you balance them, if you've ever done a yoga class, you're working on your chakras. Like it's part and parcel. Like you can't dissociate it. You don't decide today, oh, I'm working on my chakras. And then it sort of happens. It's like, no, it's just part of yoga.
Yeah, exactly. It is. And one thing with the reason why I know a little bit about chakras is, having gone through various things over the last few years, I had to address various things, emotions that would erupt, or emotions that would just, I was confused about things. So I sort of looked at chakras and how I could work on my chakras and balancing the chakras. So you can concentrate on all of them, or you can concentrate on those that you find are a bit more out of balance, to get more balance in that chakra. And in fact, what I, in fact, for people that don't quite understand the chakras, there are names for each chakra, and you've probably all heard of the Om. So at the end of yoga practice, you'll do like this protracted Om sound. That's one of the chakras. That's sort of the Crown Chakra. Is that right?
It's 2 of them, in fact. It's also the third eye as well. They both have Om, but it's a different symbol. So the Om that you do for the Crown Chakra is more to do with the higher self and consciousness.
Yes.
The Om that you do here is the subconscious mind.
Yes.
And so it's that connection between divine consciousness and subconscious mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fascinating. But
each chakra has a different sound, and when you do a chakra meditation, you generally work from the root chakra, Muladhara, up to connect the energy and open your chakras and balance them. And you do that by chanting the bija mantra, which is the seed sound for that chakra. So
that's exactly what I used to do. So I chose my time when I went to bed, because it was when I knew I had time that I could relax, and I wouldn't always go off to sleep straight away. And one thing I would do in my head was go from the root chakra. I would imagine the colours for each chakra as well, and a visual sort of whirl, but sort of the lam, vam, ram, yam, ham, sham, om would be what I would do. Some on the in-breath, some on the out-breath. And I would vary how I did it, and not wanting to concentrate on any one in particular, because I thought, well, I can't miss that one out or miss that one out. I would do them all, and that helped on the transition of going to sleep as well. So that's, and I think there's, whether it's just psychological or not, I swear that absolutely helped bring more of a daily calmness to my life.
I think, it's like we expect as well sometimes a bit too much, in terms of we're very used to instant gratification. Yes. And these kinds of practices, it's worth bearing in mind, take time, and they're slow and they're subtle. Sometimes, though, they're not. They can be quite dramatic for people quite immediately. It depends a bit where you're at, but it's not, it's not like do it once and you're like going to see this massive instant change. It's a practice over time.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
A little bit of, and I think this is where often people struggle with it. It's like, well, how am I going to consistently do this now? What, for the rest of my life? Is that what you're saying? It's like, it's too overwhelming, right? And so what I always say to people is, no, just do it today. Just plan to do it today.
Yeah.
And if you don't get to do it today, then try and do it tomorrow. Instead of this kind of like, oh, I've got to have everything ticked away for the next sort of 10 years and then everything will be good. And also keeping an open mind about it. It's like, you noticed a sense of calm, and it wasn't, by the sounds of it, not possible to see the direct cause of that.
No.
But it happened when you started doing this practice. So,
yes. I found that there was a better connectivity between my mind and the points of the chakras, my body, that I would be concentrating on. So each chakra represents, a different thing, a different emotion. So you've got the root chakra, which is more about grounding, stability, security. Then you've got the solar plexus, which is sort of hormonal, which is fertility, that kind of connection with your body. Then you've got the creativity, Then you've got the sacral chakra, which is about sort of the anxieties, the stresses, the processing of feelings. Would that be right? Do correct.
Well, actually, not totally Manipura is that, but it's more than that. It's digestion and trans. So it comes to that, and this is, people often have a blockage here.
Yeah.
And that's to do with not being able to process things, to digest, not just food, but emotions or events have happened in your life, not being able to move on, a sense of being really, really stuck. And that combined with the root chakra, because we're all obviously all the time worried about our security, like financial, a lot of the time in today's world.
Yes, yeah.
Those two go hand in hand. That's the root chakra. So we get constipated, like mentally as well as physically.
Yeah.
And everything shuts down, and it's stress. It comes back to that stress thing where there's a blockage in the nervous system as well. So And
then you go up to the heart chakra. Is that sort of like opening your heart and accepting love and empathy and kindness, and this is about giving as well as actually yourself as well. Giving that to yourself and being kind to yourself. To elaborate would mean we've got we'd be here all day. And then you go up to your throat chakra, about how you can convey your message, communication, and sort of being heard. I think getting your voice out there, being heard. If you might be, lack of confidence in some way. I mean, it's all linked to the other chakras, but this one is about being a bit more maybe assertive in life.
Communication.
Yeah.
It's with your ability to communicate, but it's also listening, though. Like, it goes hand in hand, like with that, like so communication is dynamic. It's not just about talking to other people, it's about also receiving it, and it goes with the heart chakra as well. Okay.
And then there's the third eye chakra. Is that about focus, clarity
of thought, and intuition, tapping into that, and and being in touch, and it, like I said, the subconscious mind,
yes,
like
sometimes
bubbling away underneath, and
sometimes you might not be able to see the wood for the trees, so to speak. Something could be staring at you in the face, but you just can't see it because there's something in the way. Physical something in the way, but there's just something that's lacking the connection here, and clearing this or balancing this can help with that that. And then the crown chakra. Tell us a bit more about the crown chakra, because this is where I believe that we only run on 50% of our true potential. And in fact, when I used to massage people, I would always think about sort of the chakras. We would put a jade stone on their solar plexus chakra, which was just a nice warm weight, but it was a way of helping that feeling of just security and safety to release emotions whilst in the treatment. And then at the end of the massage, I would always imagine, I mean, this is obviously a little bit way for a lot of people, but I would imagine when I would hold their head, just lots of little sort of diamond dust around them, because that was a way that I could see the anxieties and the stresses and strains leave them and keep them in that serene moment for a little bit longer. Sorry, elaborate a bit more on the crown chakra and about our sort of links to spirituality, etc.
Yeah, so the crown chakra is associated with divine consciousness, and that doesn't mean that you necessarily believe in a deity or anything like that, but a higher order, like universal consciousness, if you like to put it that way. Collective consciousness is a very potent thing, and it's like, if you're like, oh, well, what's that then? It's like, well, think about, as societies, as cultures have stories and mythologies that are common, and we all have sort of common narratives and ideas. Where does that come from? Why do we have that? That's our collective consciousness, like these tropes and these ideas that are sort of common to us all and out there in the universe. And there is a universal energy, however we choose to describe that for ourselves, whatever vocabulary or doctrine we want to bring to it, and yoga doesn't say anything on that. Actually, it welcomes all. It's not a religion itself.
No, it's not.
It embraces all faiths, it embraces all cultures, all people. So that divine consciousness there, though, is about a recognition that we are not just of ourselves, individual little bubbles. We are connected to something higher or all around us. Like, I used to think of it as the universe, as the cosmos. We are all part of that. We are the cosmos in ourselves, our bodies, manifest like a microcosm of the universe, and we are part of that greater universe. And that's what the crown chakra is about, tapping into that, and being connected to that, whatever it is. And so when we think energetically in yoga, we have these 7 chakras down the center of bodies. Why the center? Those are the main nadis, the channels that I was talking about, where the prana, the life force, flows our bodies. When we balance and open the chakras, that energy flows freely and is balanced, and we are connected. Yoga means connection, union, with the breath internally and to whatever it is around us as well. That is, in many schools of thought, the purpose of a yoga practice is to have.
And I think, and a lot of people do yoga, and they don't, and this isn't insulting anyone's intelligence. A lot of people think yoga is just yoga. Yoga is like just a form of exercise, but yoga it's so much more.
And it can be just a form of exercise if you want to.
Yes, this is true. It absolutely can be. You will take from yoga what it is you need from yoga, I suppose. That's very, very true.
But these things will also be happening as well, regardless of whether you intend them to or not.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's, in a way, it's
fascinating. It's fascinating. I could talk all day. But so as far as CG yoga and wellness, the fact is it does cover all. It does cover all. So people can come to you just for yoga. They can come to you for the well-being, the transition from where they are now to where they want to be. They can talk to you about what it is that they specifically need. And of course, where you've got the yoga practice, you've got the well-being therapy background, and also your naturopathic sort of future as well. That says to me that you are a very complete person to be able to take us forward and nurture us. We all need that bit of nurturing and cherishing.
Yeah, we do, even when we're grown-ups. Yes. Especially when we're grown-ups, because we tend to get this idea that, oh, I'm a grown-up now and I don't really need to do that. I should be looking after my children or other people. And it's like, well, you still need it yourself as well. Everybody needs nurturing, and we need to learn to do that for ourselves, I believe. Yes. And that's what my journey has been about, been about learning how to look after myself, because I didn't know, basically. I don't know why I didn't know, but I just didn't know. I mean, and I've had to learn that. And I think it's a bit like, you know, we don't get a rule book on life or a manual on how to do it. And you know, there's nothing wrong with asking for help. In fact, it's probably a great idea, because why should we be able to do everything ourselves, by ourselves, for ourselves?
Well, we don't have the answers. I mean, I don't have the answers to how I do this or do that, let alone how I live a fulfilling life. And I think I've spent too long thinking it's others giving that to you rather than how I actually seek it myself. I'm not saying I've had a problem for years, you know, that. But what I'm saying is I've noticed things over the years. I'm mid-40s, and it's just, you know, it gets a little bit like, hang on a minute. There's a moment where we have to, I think, reflect and then just rejig things a little bit to know that that wasn't working, was it? Let's go down this route and see. It's all an education. It's all an exploration into something that a lot of people don't find comfortable, but I find it particularly comfortable because.
Well, I don't think it's supposed to be comfortable either.
That's like
who, you know, where again we've got this idea that everything should be like not easy, but like comfortable and smooth all the time. And if it's not, we're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
But I say, pay attention to those times when it feels a bit like difficult. That's where the real learning is. That's where value and lesson is in life, and then just enjoy it when it's great, you know, because you deserve to, and it's a gift.
It's true. It's like, you know, the rough with the smooth. It's the ups with the downs. It's the comfort with the discomfort, I suppose. You can only accept the positive feelings, or what we believe are the positive feelings, by knowing what the negative feelings feel like. So, I mean,
and it's part of life as well.
Yes.
It just is, you know, like that's the reality of it. Life's not always easy.
No. Well, you know what? I think we should probably leave it there. Otherwise, I'm going to start to want to talk to you about Tibetan singing bowls and all of these other different subjects.
Yeah, so we have other classes as well.
Yes.
They're all on the schedule, and needless to say, they're all aimed at healing and giving time and space to well-being, which is the goal. It's really important, you know, for people. So, and I'm available to like have a chat with people about their specific
well, that's the thing. I think it has to be specific, because no two person is the same. I mean, you can do a class, absolutely, and people can take from it what they need, but there's nothing better than a proper one-to-one chat. So what I will do,
the classes are lovely. I mean, I have to say, I see them. So
like you say, it's a sense of community. Everybody's going there for a reason, and that's to feel better. Whether they wanted to go, but they've dragged themselves to going, at the end, there will be that sense of like, oh yeah, that's better. You know, whether it's a bit more clarity, a bit more focus, a bit more energy, or a bit more relaxation, people will be taking a positive from it, and they will walk out the door having said to themselves, yes, I'm glad I did that. I bet nobody would say, well, what did I do that for? You know, that wouldn't enter into people's, I think, vocabularies if they were walking out of one of your classes. Anyhow, thank you.
I hope not.
Yeah, hope not. God, bloody hell, I want to come back again. Claire, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Shall I give you a little bell afterwards? It's so lovely to talk to you. Thank you for your time. And thank you
lovely
for
to talk to you as well.
so much.
Thank you for having me.
That's well, you're welcome. We'll have to have you back again and talk about other things in particular. There's so much to explore. Anyhow, thank you. Thank you. Have a great day. Speak to you later.
Bye. You too.
Oh, well, you know, I could go on for ages. I could go on for ages about most things, actually, especially with the people that come on the show as my guest. Half the time, I talk to people about things that you tell me you want to hear about, and also, of course, very much about the things that I want to learn more about. It's all in education, and I think with the health and well-being, it's vast, it's huge. You know, there's so many things that are uncovered about the, you know, and about the sleep, the food, the what is it? The emotions. God's sake, emotions. We do like to hang on to these things, and we do things that I think that half the time is in a rush, so we're not really thinking about what we're doing and how it's affecting our body. I could talk about this, that, and everything else. But one thing to certainly do, I think, is have a look at Claire's website, cgyoga.org.uk. That talks about all that Claire does, but it does also talk very much about the yoga, different types of yoga that she does in her classes. We've touched on the whys, but it kind of unravels the mystery behind the name of things as well. I don't know all the names of everything, and it sounds a bit like it should be more complicated than it is. So have a look at her website and see what she does with the classes and with the workshops as well. It's very interesting, and it's certainly a path I think we should all explore a little bit more if we're thinking about giving ourselves a bit more time and space to focus on our health and our well-being. Right, so I'm not going to take up any more of your time either. I need to go and actually, quite interestingly, I need to go and sweep the front of the house and the porch, because my husband said to me upon leaving this morning, it would be nice if that was done and that was done for the weekend. I'm like thinking, where are my list of things? Am I supposed to fit that in? Of course, he doesn't know how long my list of things is. And at the time it was raining, so I thought, oh, no, I'm not going to be doing that. But actually it's cleared up. So I should be really getting on with my long list of things to do before I sit and relax later with my nice glass of wine. So I do hope you have a lovely rest of the day. Have a fabulous weekend. I will see you on Monday. I'll be doing a little trailer for what we've got going on Monday this afternoon, so keep your eyes open for that. All right, but until then, just start investigating a little bit more self-help. I think it's all a great thing to do. Email me, kate@pinksaltshed.com, about anything in particular topic-wise you'd like to hear about. Also, I will put Claire's details on the comments section underneath the little YouTube channel show that we've done today. And do subscribe to the show. That will be fabulous. Pink Salt Shed TV, bottom right-hand corner, red button. So take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.